जय ओम विष्णुपाद परिहंसकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद अभयचरण अरविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शीला प्रभुपाद की, इस्कॉन फौंडराचार्य शीला प्रभुपाद की, नामाचार्य शीला हरिदास ठाकुर की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की। ऑल ग्लोरी शुद्ध संबुल डिवोटीज, ऑल ग्लोरी शुद्ध संबुल डिवोटीज, ऑल ग्लोरी शुद्ध संबुल डिवोटीज, ऑल ग्लोरी श्री श्री गुरु एंड गौरंगा, ऑल ग्लोरी श्री शीला प्रभुपाद की जय। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the morning Bhagavatam class. Today we are reciting the verses from Canto 3, Chapter 26, titled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature, and the text we are covering from 62 to 71, the 9 verses, because there is no purport for most of the verses, so 71 verses having purport, so we'll start with 62 first. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। टेक्स्ट 62। एते हि अभ्युत्थित देवा नैव शोत्तपने सखा पुनराविविशुखानि तम उत्थापयितुं क्रमात्। एते हि अभ्युत्थित देवा नैव शोत्तापने सखान् पुनराविविशुखानि तम उत्थापयितुं क्रमात्। एते हि अभ्युत्थिता देवा नैव शोत्तापने सखान् पुनराविविशुखानि तम उत्थापयितुं क्रमात्। प्रभु जी। एते हि अभ्युत्थित देवा नैव शोत्तापने सखात् पुनराविविशुखानि तम उत्थापयितुं क्रमात्। एते हि अभ्युत्थित देवा नैव शोत्तापने सखात् पुनराविविशुखानि तम उत्थापयितुं क्रमात्। एते हि अभ्युत्थित देवा नैव शोत्तापने सखात् पुनराविविशुखानि तम उत्थापयितुं क्रमात्। माताजी। एते हि अभ्युत्थित देवा नैव शोत्तापने सखात् पुनराविविशुखानि उत्थापयितुं क्रमात्। एते हि अभ्युत्थिता देवा नैव शोत्तापने सखात् पुनराविविशुखानि तम उत्थापयितुं क्रमात्। What to what meaning? Ete, these, he, indeed, abhyuttita, manifested, Deva, demigods, Na, not, Eva, at all, Asya, of the Virat Purusha, Uttapane, in waking, Askan, we were able, Puna, again, Avivishu, they entered, Khani, the apertures of the body, Tham, him, Uttapaitum, to awaken, Kramat, one after another. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Please repeat the translation. When the demigods and presiding deities of the various senses were thus manifested, they wanted to awake their origin of appearance. But upon failing to do so, they returned the body of the Virata Purusha one after another in order to wake him. Purport. In order to wake the sleeping deity controller within, one has to rechannel the sense activities from concentration on the outside to concentration inside. In the following verses, the sense activities which are required to wake the Virata Purusha will be explained very nicely. So, up to 71, I will read the translation. Just please follow, listen. The text 63, the translation. The god of fire entered his mouth with the organ of speech, but the Virata Purusha could not be aroused. Then the god of wind entered his nostrils with the sense of smell, but still the Virata Purusha refused to be awakened. And text 64, translation. The sun god entered the eyes of Virata Purusha with the senses of sight, but still the Virata Purusha did not get up. Similarly, the predominating deities of the directions entered through his ears with the senses of hearing, but still he did not get up. Text 65, translation. The predominating deities of the skin, the herbs and seasoning plants entered the skin of the Virata Purusha with the hair of the body, but the cosmic being refused to get up even then. The god predominating over water entered his organ of generation with the faculty of procreation, but the Virata Purusha still would not rise. Text 66, translation. The god of death entered his anus with organ of defecation, but the Virata Purusha could not be suppressed to activity. The god Indra entered the hands with their power of grasping and dropping things, but Virata Purusha would not get up even then. The text 67, translation. Lord Vishnu entered his feet with the faculty of locomotion, but Virata Purusha refused to stand up even then. The rivers entered his blood vessels with the blood and power of circulation, but still the cosmic being could not be made to stir. Text 68, translation. The ocean entered his abdomen with hunger and thirst, but the cosmic being refused to rise even then. The moon god entered his heart with the mind, but the cosmic being would not be roused. Text 69. Brahma also, translation. Brahma also entered his heart with the intelligence, but even then the cosmic being could not be prevailed upon to get up. Lord Rudra also entered his heart with the ego, but even then the cosmic being did not stir. Text 70. Translation. However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with the reason, at the very moment the cosmic being from the casual waters, being arose from the casual waters. Text 71. Translation. When the man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, the mind and the intelligence cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the super soul helps him. Purport. The explanation of Sankhya philosophy is described here in detail in the sense that the Virata Purusha, or the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the original source of all various sense organs and their presiding deities. The relationship between the Virata Purusha and the presiding deities, or living entity is so intricate that simply by exercising the sense organs which are related to their presiding deities, the Virata Purusha cannot be aroused. It is not possible to arouse the Virata Purusha or to link with the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead by material activities. Only by devotional service and detachment can one perform the process of linking with the Absolute. So let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Syapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyasya Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Runda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome once again. So okay. So we have been continuing the chapter Fundamental Principles of Material Nature, and initially the discussion started between Kapila Muni and Mother Devahuti, when Mother Devahuti was asked to the questions how to get out of this disturbance of this material senses. Then Kapila Muni started speaking Sankhya philosophy. As part of the Sankhya philosophy, Kapila Muni started explaining the material creation. And we have been discussed like there are 23 elements we have discussed, and after creating the material, these key ingredients of material work creation, then Garbhodakashaya Vishnu entered into the universe, and from there the first living being Brahma was created, and then all the creation, then that's where the Virata Purusha concept introduced in this chapter. If you see that the creation, broadly, it was classified into two parts: Karana creation and Karya creation. Karana means the cause of creation. In the first stage, the cause of creation, in the Karana creation, all the key ingredients like earth, water, fire, air, ether, and remaining all the sense organs were the basic ingredients required to create the material universe were created. The next Karya is where actual material creation was created. Garbhodakashaya entered into the universe, and then Brahma created, and all the subsequent things were created. That is the Karya Srushti. So after entering into Brahma, Garbhodakashaya Vishnu into the universe, that's where universal form has been discussed. Today, I think we'll spend most of the time on this universal form, and then we will discuss few points from the text 71. And if you see all the verses from 61, there is every alternate line, and if you see the verse like No Datishta Tada Virat, No Datishta Tada Virat, every line, it's alternate line. It was. So what does it mean? No means not, Udatishta did arise, Tada was then Virata Purusha. Every time the different demigods of the different senses, they are trying to awaken the Virata Purusha, and Virata Purusha was, this universal form is not awakening, right? So that is what the entire, and finally what is the process to awakening the Virata Purusha. And it also mentioned in the purport, what does it mean awakening the Virata Purusha with our senses? What does it mean? And finally, what is the process to awaken Virata Purusha? Then how we can continue in our devotion. Those are things. But briefly before that, we try to spend some time on Virata Purusha. Like, if you see in Bhagavad Gita, where there are many verses where it's meant aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravaktate iti matta bhajantema bodha bhava samanvitam. All the material and spiritual world is created by me. And Krishna, in various verses, it was mentioned that I am the taste of water, I am the taste of, I am the light of sun and moon, I am the seed-giving father, I am the power of all the powerful men, right? It was mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. And not only that, in Brahma Samhita also, Lord Brahma speaking, like he was entered into the universe, Andantarastha Brahma, Andantarastha Paramam Chayantarastham, right? So he was entering into the universe, and then he was entering into each atom. He is there in the he is entering as a super soul in every living being, right? That is what the Supreme Personality of Godhead being entered. So in all these definitions creating that, Supreme Personality of God it is spreading all over the universe. He's there in the Goloka, he is there in the, like he's playing flute, as he's doing various leelas, but at the same time, with various energies, various incarnations, Krishna is doing all these things. He is maintaining the material creation, he is the taste of water, so light of moon and sun, all these things are happening. Now, all these things we understand because we have followed a certain process where we were reading the Bhagavad Gita systematically. We are associating with the various spiritual masters, sannyasis, with their association, with their mercy. We are trying to understand. We are in the path. Let's take a new person, like every Sunday feast. Many new people come to the temple. And as soon as they enter the temple, I think the Bhava Prabhu will be there with the books. And he will be explaining he will giving the chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he will be asking them to do the chanting. And the next Madhav Sevak Prabhu stands there, he will be requesting everyone to do chant Hare Krishna Mantra. That some neophyte devotees will be coming. First time, they are coming to the temple first time because they heard the Kirtan somewhere in the, when we are doing the Harinam, I thought okay, they wanted to come and listen Kirtan and they got a nice vegetarian prasadam. So they thought, okay, let's come, and then as soon as we enter, they will ask you to do the chanting, they will ask them to read the books, and then you come and see the, then when they see the deity, since he is the first time coming, then devotees someone will tell that, okay, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is then what is he? Then since he doesn't have any idea about Krishna, then they will say, okay, he is the creator of the universe. He does all the material creation. But when he sees that Krishna is having 2 hands, 2 legs, it looks everything same as me. What is it? Why he is so great? What is the evidence? Then you will say, okay, this is the Bhagavad Gita, this is the Bhagavatam, this is where everything is mentioned. But will he have a faith, conviction? No, because he doesn't know anything about Krishna. His understanding will be at high level. He came to just to see the temple, listen the kirtan, have prasadam. But when we try to give all these things, he will not be able to understand. He will not be able to understand the spiritual form of the Krishna. In Goloka, he will be staying with 2 hands, 2 legs, and he will be playing the flute, and he will be performing various leelas. Everything is mentioned in the scriptures, but the understanding, they will not be having, they will not be believing it. They will not have a firm faith. But in case of us, what we did, we also came to the same passage. In the beginning, we did after a few days, we started doing chanting. Then we started slowly attending Bhagavad Gita classes and then Bhagavatam classes. Then our faith, our conviction got increased, right? So finally, we are sitting in the Bhagavatam and attending, means we got some faith. We believe that this is the correct process. This is the right information we are getting. That's why everybody is sitting and listening. That kind of firm faith, we got it. Now that's why we can understand all the Bhagavad Gita slow verses when he say, okay, Krishna is entering into every universe. He is there in every atom. He is there as a super son in every living entity. When all these things, it makes sense to us because we have been following the process. But for the neophyte stage, for the new beginner, he will not be having understanding. So, for the neophyte faced person, the new person, to understand Krishna, to enter into the bhakti, this universal form is helpful. That is one of the important thing where this universal form helps him to concentrate, because he thinks in his perception, what is Supreme Lord? Supreme Lord means he is very big. He does so many things, right? When you see with the 2 hands, 2 legs, he will not be able to conceive that, okay, he is a Supreme Lord. But unless we say, okay, Supreme Lord is a total creator of this material universe, when you see the gigantic, big universal form with all the planets, everything there, that Purusha will give him a right definition of God, and then he can focus on meditating on Krishna. So that is how the universal form is introduced. And the universal form is, it's a big gigantic form. It is made up of all the material elements which we discussed so far in the Sankhya philosophy, and it is unlike other incarnations. Like we understand that various incarnations of Supreme Lord Krishna, like Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha. In all these incarnations, what is the special? These are all the spiritual. These incarnations that in the abodes are there in the spiritual. In the spiritual world, these personalities are there in this form. Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, all those spiritual planets there, they are existing there. But in case of universal form, there is no such spiritual abode, because it's a material form. And second thing, it is an imaginary form. Third thing, it is bona fide. What does bona fide means? It is there. We can use this form to meditate. That is where in the neophyte stage, people can use this neophyte form to meditate on this universal form. So, in what way it helps? Suppose when we try to understand the Krishna can be understood in 3 ways, like impersonal Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, right? But some people will stop at impersonal stage, and they will think that, okay, Krishna is nothing but impersonal form. Even though Krishna, apart from impersonal Brahmajyoti, Krishna's form is there, they don't go beyond. Right? That is where we call impersonalists. They will, okay, Krishna is nothing but, okay, the Brahmajyoti, the Supreme God. But some people, they believe that, okay, Krishna is a God. But again, they don't believe the impersonal. Then for those people who are coming into this path, okay, Krishna is a person, but when you give all the scriptural references, then he will not be able to understand. So that is where the neophyte stage and the new beginner, we have to give them this universal form. When you start meditating on universal form, after certain time, you will be gradually coming into the devotional path. Right? Once you keep on meditating a universal form, like some form of Krishna, you are meditating, and it's like a devotion. You starting the devotion, and when you continuing the devotion, gradually you will coming in the path of devotion. You will get associated with the different devotees. Then you will be able to attend various Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita classes, lectures. Then you will be knowing that, okay, Krishna is a person. Then whatever he was not able to understand at the beginning, now you will be able to understand. But the starting point is universal form. His understanding is different on God. This universal form is a right form to meditate for the initial and beginning stage. Not only that, Asuras, like some of the Asuras, what they do? They don't believe God. They don't believe any scriptural references. Whatever references you quote from Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, they don't reject everything. But for them, when they see the big form, then that will give them idea, okay, he is the Supreme Lord, he is the universal form, is there. So that gives some understanding. Not only that, like we see so many bogus gurus, Babas were there. They claim themselves as a God, right? So if they are claiming themselves as a God, we have a question. The God is having the universal form. Show me you as a universal form. We can challenge them. Then we can see whether it is a really God or it is a bogus, right? We are cheating God, right? We can now use this analogy, this universal form, in a various contexts where you can see that if whoever is claiming that I am a God, I am Supreme Personality of God, then we can ask them, show me your universal form. Krishna is a Supreme God, he showed his universal form multiple times. Like in the Kaurav Sabha, to Mother Yashoda, and in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and multiple instances he showed his universal form. Show me at least once your universal form if you are claiming as a God. We can challenge them. another thing is like in Virata Rupa, as we've been discussing previously also, there are many things like your various 14 planetary systems are there inside. Various mountains, hills, lakes, rivers, trees, everything we can see there in the universal form. Then that is where the understanding, if the people say Krishna is impersonalist, the impersonalist is not based on our senses, what we understand impersonal. It is like the way these things are there. When we show the universal form with all these things, then he will see, if he say any hill, any mountain, he will connect with the God and he will meditate on God. Because Krishna says that he is there everywhere. In every atom he is there, every living entity he is there. If he is seeing the trees, if he is seeing the mountains, then he can also connect with Krishna. That is how the neophyte will get into the connection with the God, and he will be form of a God, which is not like a human being, but the God is there. They may say energy is there, but we know it is a soul is supreme God. Soul is there. It is part of universal form, so he can meditate. So these are all entry points to come into the devotional stage for all the beginning stage of the devotees. And what is there in the universal form? We have been discussing, but there are multiple references in multiple verses in Bhagavatam. In the previous last few verses we've been discussing, and in second canto also there were multiple places it was mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. So, like we hear from Bhagavad Gita, all the living entities part and parcel of Krishna. Right? That is what. How we can understand? This we can understand through the universal form. In the universal form, it is mentioned that Brahmanas represent his mouth, Kshatriyas represent his arms, and Vaishyas represent his thighs, and Shudras come from his legs. So all the living entities classified into Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, and all living beings are their part of. Head is Brahmana, arms are Vaishya, Kshatriya, Shudra, the thighs, and legs are Shudra. So all the living beings are covered as part of Supreme. So that way we can understand the every living being part and parcel of Krishna. It's imaginary form, but it is mapped like that to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this way we can understand, for the beginners we can easily understand, okay, we are all part and parcel of Krishna. And not only that, all the planetary systems, whatever mentioned here, like all from Patala Loka to Satya Loka. So it was also classified. So up to the 14 planetary systems within the universe, the lower systems, the Bhur Loka, from the earth to down, all are systems it is. And then the middle Bhuvar Loka, higher planetary systems, and the top Loka, Brahma Loka, everything is, the different planets were categorized in the universal form. All this. So all the planets are there, means whatever living beings there in the planet, all the living entities, earth, mountains, hills, anything, it's all in the universe also, it's there in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. With these understandings, the people, beginners can easily understand that, okay, Krishna is everything, Krishna is everything, he is the source of everything. This kind of knowledge he can understand. So this is all the basic things about the universal form. And another interesting related information about the universal form in Ashtanga Yoga, how it helps. So in Ashtanga Yoga, we have multiple forms. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. In the Yama stage, it is specifies all the don'ts. What are the things which we should not follow. And Niyama is the do's, whatever the prescribed duties which we have to do. And Asana is the sitting posture. So we are all preparing our body for meditation, dhyana. Before that, these are the preliminary things we are doing to make our body suitable for meditation. Pranayama means controlling the breathing exercise. And Pratyahara, controlling the food habits, everything, taking the regular prescribed food, right? Dharana is this is where so far what all the first 5 steps are specific to the external things. You are preparing your body for the meditation. This is the dharana it starts. This is the dharana stage where you have to start meditating upon. But with those people who are fully materially engrossed, those who are materially entangled, and their mind is constantly having so many desires, when you start doing the meditation, it is very difficult to focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this is where they recommend they take the universal form of Supreme Lord and meditate on Supreme Lord. This is a universal form of the Supreme. At the Dharana stage, the Supreme Lord can be, the universal form can be used to meditate. And as you continue in the Dharana with the universal form, when your senses are purified and when you are very serious, then you got into the Dhyana stage. That is where you can fully meditate on Krishna. Each and every limbs of Krishna, you can constantly meditate. That is where the Dhyana stage. So this stage where the Dharana stage, the universal form will be used to meditate on, to start our meditation. Once become fixed in our mind, once our mind is cleaned, then we can focus on actual Supreme Lord to on each and every limb, more detailed dhyana. So this is how in Ashtanga Yoga also it is explained. And now coming back to the today's verse in 71. So I will read the translation. When a man is before that, 60, 70 also I will read. However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with a reason, at the very moment the cosmic being arose from the causal waters. And text 71 is saying, when a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, the mind and the intelligence, cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when Super Soul helps him. In the purport, if you see that, it is the relationship between the Virata Purusha and presiding deities or living entities so intricate that simply by exercising the sense organs which are related to their presiding deities with Virata Purusha cannot be aroused. It is not possible to arouse Virata Purusha or link with the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead by material activities. So what is trying to, what we can derive from this Prabhupada purport is, from all through verses, this various demigods are trying to awaken the Virata Purusha. What is the purpose? The purpose is to link to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are trying to connect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Through their senses, they are trying to awaken them. That is what. But Supreme Personality of Godhead is not responding to them. So what then finally the Prabhupada was saying that it is only through with the devotional service and detachment only we can connect to the Supreme Lord. Now, in the Nectar of Devotion, also it was mentioned few points about this devotional practice. Right? Devotional practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. So that's why we can compare this. When these demigods are trying to connect to the Krishna with their senses. But what is it is a devotional practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. It's not randomly whatever we do, some particular process is prescribed. That is what is mentioned. There are certain prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant conscious for loving Krishna will be invoked. So, employing our senses is nothing but not just randomly we use our senses, because if you see this, all these senses were created when the predominant nature of Mahatattva is Ahankara. Right? Ahankara interacting with goodness, Ahankara interacting with the passion, Ahankara in the different ignorance. That is where all the different senses, sense objects and elements are created. So, those are all in the stage of Ahankara, false ego state. They are conditioned. Right? Now, if we have to apply these senses, our senses, into the Supreme Personality in the service of Lord, what is there? That is why there are certain prescribed methods for employing our senses and mind in such a way that our dormant conscious for loving Krishna will be invoked. Right? When we use our senses in a particular way, so there are two aspects here. First thing is using our senses to awaken Krishna. Right? That can be done when we follow prescribed methods, not just randomly. That's where we can understand that initially all the senses are in conditioned state. We are trying to connect with those senses to Supreme Lord. But that was not happening. But what is the process? We have to apply our senses in a particular way. And the second is awakening Krishna. Krishna, how we can awakening? That also we have to follow some prescribed process. Like when we see the Mangalarti, every day we are awakening the Lord. Right? What is the process? The Pujari will do, like as soon as he comes into the deity room, he will offer the water, milk and sweets, and then he will make him ready, and then he will blow the conch shell, that indicates he is awakening. And not only that, if you see the Tirupati Balaji temple, there in the hill, the everyday morning at 3 o'clock, all the priests, everyone, all the pujaris, brahmanas, there are some sannyasis residing, Sri Sampradaya sannyasis, they will be residing over the hill. So everyone, they will assemble at 3 o'clock in the temple and they will recite Venkateshwara Suprabhatam. Right? That they recite every day, almost the 70 verses, and they will awaken. So there are prescribed duties to awaken and use our senses in a particular way. If we don't follow that way, Krishna will not respond. So we are all conditioned state. So we need to follow the prescribed duties, prescribed process, so that we can awaken Krishna and we use our senses in serving the Supreme Lord. I don't want to go detail about the bhakti and detachment, because that will be covered in tomorrow's verse. So I will conclude here. Any comments? Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. See, that's what they actually see. If you understand that, any incarnation of Krishna, we will have the spiritual abode. So, but this Virata Purusha is made up of, it's an imaginary form. It's not a real form. It's an imaginary form, which we are assuming that made up of all the elements which we are created in the material universe. So, it's a material form, but actually it is not real. It's imaginary.
So, the picture you're seeing of the Karnataka Vishnu, can we say that that is the form also?
No, that is the Karnataka Virata, that's the Mahavishnu form only. See, like in a Bhagavad Gita, so when you see Krishna also in the Bhagavad Gita chapters, it was mentioned, right? When Krishna is seeing the universal form, Arjuna is seeing that all the living beings are there inside him, including him also there, he is able to see, right? So, it's the imaginary form, where Krishna is showing that to Arjuna. So, that is what it is. So, it's not a real form.
And which personality is the deeply presiding over consciousness? Who is that one? 70 shloka. Who is that personality? And it's mentioned previously as well. Which personality is the predominating deep of consciousness?
Consciousness.
It says that in this text, or in previous text, it says that because of that consciousness, the Virat Purusha arose.
I think, answer was given in the 71 as well. I think that's what even I was also looking. So if you see, when a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, sense for recording knowledge, sense for working the mind and intelligence, cannot arouse them. He can be aroused only when the super soul helps him. Maybe I was linking these two. I don't have the direct answer, but connecting 71 and 70, the concept, maybe it is referring to super soul. That could be my guess, but yeah, I don't have the exact answer. But yeah, when you connect.
And just the last line of today's text, 71, it says that, if you just read, a man can be aroused only when the super soul helps him.
Yeah.
So how do we understand this, like in day-to-day world, which is for the alarm indicator, right? So does it mean that we should understand it's only because the super soul is sanctioning him to get up?
Yeah, that could be the reason. Yeah, because see, you are as a person.
Try to explain this to me.
Yeah, because see, like everything is a blade of grass will not move without sanction of Krishna. That is the key understanding you can take. From there you can develop the reasoning. Right? So everything, see, you are sleeping, you don't have any control. Some external force should act. That external force is there within you as a super soul. That you can understand. Right? Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
These verses that we're reading, is this within a context of the universe? Is this happening within?
Yeah, this is within context of one universe. See, it was mentioned that this happens for each of the universe, but yeah, this is the process specific to one universe.
Is this happening after?
The Garbhodakashayi, the Mahavishnu glances everything, the material universe is coming out of his pores, and then Garbhodakashayi Vishnu enters. From there, the universes will be created, and that's where the Virata Purusha concept being introduced in this chapter. Yeah, from the, yeah. Yes, that is what all the planets. So this imaginary form, as soon as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu entered, all the creation is happening. Because when you see the universal form, all the planets are there, all the living beings are there. So after the universe is created, everything, material creation, that form is being shown as a Virata Purusha form. Right? It is all the creation is done. When you see, like when based on the description, when you see the Arjuna, like say, he is able to see everything inside the Virata Purusha. Here also that all the hills, mountains, everything there. It means the creation is done. That once the creation is done, that form can be taken as a universal form. That's what understanding.
Currently, in the animals, the senses, the images of the senses are being created. What we mean right now.
Yeah, before, see the demigod, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, Rama hasn't started his.
See, that part directly they did not create. So as soon as they did not elaborate all those activities in this verse context, mainly the focus was on key material elements in relation to Sankhya philosophy. So they covered all those aspects. After that, the creation is happening. Then, the universal form concept being introduced. But in the second canto, it was mentioned, I think, how the universal form is created. I think, similar, in the same line, like when Narada was inquiring to Brahma, and in the second canto, the same Brahma was explaining, same things were repeated in the same line. There also it is there. But it's here in relation to Sankhya philosophy, material creation, all the elements, this concept was discussed. So, Prabhu, actually, I was also thinking on that. But when Garbhodakashayi Vishnu entered, he is on the internal potency in a slumber state. And no extra, that's what it is mentioned in 50th verse. So, maybe same concept being used in the Virata Purusha. That was my understanding. Because with the internal potency in a sleeping state, is actually not no physical, because of his internal potency, he is in the sleeping state. So maybe the same thing is continued here. That's what my guess, Prabhu.
And also you gave the example of Tirupati, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
These actually decides from things that the morning is very long. So how do we understand? I mean, Lord in the sleeps, like how do we understand that aspect?
Prabhu, I think that's what Lord sleeping in the internal potency. That's what it is mentioned. He is not like sleeping like us. With Yoga Maya, his internal potency, he will not close his. It will be, that is what he does. His sleeping means it's not like our sleeping. He will be active. He doing all the activities. But he is with the internal potency. He was in a slumber state, sleepy state. That is what we take it as. But actually, it is not. It's really like sleeping like us, where we forget everything and sleep. It is not like that.
So that can't be compared to, for example, Kumukana, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what I'm saying. We can't take it our material sleeping. When we sleep, we don't remember anything. Super soul has to awaken us, right? That's what we discuss. So when the Lord that's what in the 50th verse it was mentioned very clearly. When Garbhodakashayi entered, he was with internal potency. He is entered into that sleepy state, the slumber state. But actually, he is not sleeping. He is not closed his eyes. That's what it is mentioned in the purport and the translation. So his sleep is different from our sleep.
You mentioned that one needs to do with this light releasing into the Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
So is that meaning that this can be material and spiritual?
Yeah, because see, the awakening the spirituality is awakening the Krishna consciousness is a spiritual activity, right? So whatever we do, like prescribed methods and senses has to be used in a prescribed way, like waking up in the morning, first morning 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, you will be occupied with so many devotional activities, chanting, Mangalarti, Darshanarti, right? So you are employing your senses in the spiritual way. So that will keep your mind in Krishna conscious throughout the day, right? So this is what some prescribed activities we can say. That's where I took the example of Tirupati Balaji Suprabha way awakening, how they are doing it. So when you employ your all senses in a spiritual way from the morning, 4 o'clock to till 9:30, 10, rest of the day your consciousness will be in the same line, right? That's how you are employing your senses in a spiritual way.
Someone does it prescribed to you in a different way.
if you are using the prescribed duties for Krishna conscious, then you will become Krishna conscious. But yeah, that your objective is to become a Krishna conscious, then you will become Krishna conscious. But if some people may do yoga simply, like they do morning yoga meditation, but their goal is not to become Krishna conscious. What will happen? They will have a proper fitness of yoga, body fitness, mind. I think, yeah, that's what, so they will get it. But if your objective is to become Krishna conscious, you are employing your senses, yoga you are doing, yeah, you will get there. Physically you will be fit, at the same time it will help you to grow in your spiritual path. But yeah, your objective should be Krishna conscious, then you will achieve that. Your goal should be clear. Then you can use your prescribed duties in a proper way. Mm-hmm.
So when we actually say maintainer is Vishnu, and we actually pinpoint which of the three Vishnus, Shali or Shira, Shali or Kala, right? Can we actually pinpoint who's actually the maintainer among these three Vishnus?
See, at the different stage, I think the different Vishnus are coming, right? So as an individual soul, because Kshiroda Kashaya Vishnu is entering into each and every individual as a soul. So that specific to person, Kshiroda Kashaya is taking control. If you see the universe, Garbhoda Kashaya Vishnu is there for each universe, right? And when beyond that, when all the universes are annihilated, it coming into the Mahavishnu, right? It's the different stages the different Vishnus are doing. So that is how you can understand it. That's my understanding. It's not just one Vishnu. You can. That's why the three Purushavataras there, right? So all, yeah. So each Vishnu is doing different aspect of him. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, गौर भक्त वृंद की जय.